guys, it's Molly. Welcome to Teen Book Talk. Today we're going to talk about Kiersten White. Kiersten White is one of my favorite authors, and if you can't tell, because I am embracing these books because I love them so much. Just kidding. Here's a few books by Kiersten White that we have here at the library. I have a couple more here with me as well. I've read a few of these. 3 of them I have read. One of them I am going to read, and one of them I am currently reading. If you can't tell, I am a fan of Kiersten White. I just had the idea to do a special Teen Book Talk edition of her books. By the way, we haven't done a Teen Book Talk video in a while. Just been kind of reorganizing and replanning how to do this to help you guys have more of an enjoyable experience with Teen Book Talk. So anyway, let's talk about Kiersten White. Kiersten White, like I said, is one of my favorite authors. She's kind of a really versatile author. She writes fantasy, she's got some historical fantasy, she's got some mythology, which one of these I'm going to talk about has mythology in there, Egyptian mythology. She's got, you know, historical fiction slash mythology, because we have the Guinevere Deception, which is kind of a take on the Arthurian legend. We have And I Darken, which has some historical aspects to this. We have Slayer, okay, Buffy, that's historical. Just kidding. But this is in the same universe as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if you guys remember her. So if you don't and you're younger and you are familiar with Buffy, go and watch her show. I recommend you go and watch, get a little bit familiar with her and the Buffy universe, because, you know, that's going to take place. I'll tell you some more about that, but I'm just kind of giving you guys a little bit of an intro here to our Teen Book Talk Kiersten White edition. Yeah, I was talking about her different genres. Oh, creepy thriller. We have a take on Frankenstein, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. The cover itself is a little creepy. There's some stitching, which, you know, it's kind of skin color. Anyway, so I love Kiersten White. She's one of my favorite fantasy, young adult authors, fiction, what have you, historical fiction, mythology, retellings, like I said, with Buffy. So let's talk about each of these books in order. I'm going to give you some of the synopsis. I might go ahead and read you the whole synopsis, and then we're also going to read a little bit of the first pages, maybe the epilogue. We're just going to see what happens here. I'm just honestly going with the flow with this. Once again, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. Let's get right into this one. If you like the Frankenstein series, Mary Shelley's original Frankenstein story, you're probably going to like this if that's your cup of tea. Of course, you have Dr. Victor Frankenstein, who built his monsters using body parts from actual dead people. You know, he was a scientist, mad scientist, if you will, because of that. So this is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. Who is Elizabeth Frankenstein? Is it his wife? Is it his sister? You're going to have to read to find out. Totally give this a read, because it's just really good. And I'll go ahead and tell you. Elizabeth Lavenza, that was her name, hasn't had a proper meal in weeks. Her thin arms are covered with bruises from her caregiver, and she is on the verge of being thrown into the streets until she's brought to the home of Victor Frankenstein, an unsmiling, solitary boy who has everything except a friend. Victor is her escape from misery. Elizabeth does everything she can to make herself indispensable, and it works. She's taken in by the Frankenstein family, so there you go. She was taken in, adopted, if you will, and rewarded with a warm bed, delicious food, and dresses of the finest silk. Soon she and Victor are inseparable. I'm going to quit there with the synopsis. I don't want to give away too much of this. So let's go ahead and read the first little bit. Because, you know, you can read the synopsis, you can flip through the book, you can look at the cover to try and get interested in a book, but I always find it helps just to go ahead and read the first few sentences or so. And that can really, you know, if it pulls you in right away, you know it's going to probably be a really good book. If it takes you a really, really long time to get into a book, especially like a few chapters, sometimes I don't keep reading the book. That's just me. So it's okay if you don't fit. But anyway, we're going to read the first page or so of The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. And this is part 1. How can I live without thee? Lightning clawed across the sky, tracing veins through the clouds and marking the pulse of the universe itself. Does that pull you in or not? It does to me. Let's read a little bit more. I sighed happily as rain slashed the carriage windows and thunder rumbled so loudly we could not even hear the wheels bump when the dirt lane met the cobblestones at the edge of Ingolstadt. Justine trembled beside me like a newborn rabbit, burying her face in my shoulder. Another bolt lit our carriage with bright white clarity before rendering us temporarily deaf with a clap of thunder so loud the windows threatened to loosen. Yeah, I'm going to quit right there. I know you want to read more. I know you want to read more. And guess what? You can, because like I said, we have these books here at the library if you want to check them out. If you don't live around here in Warrick County, you can totally, you can probably find it on Amazon. I'm sure they have some cheaper used copies. A lot of times I find used books on Amazon for like $2, okay? Go to a bookstore, go to a used bookstore, find this book because if you like Frankenstein, if you like stories like this, you're not going to be disappointed. I really loved it. I love mythology, so I really like this one. It's based on Egyptian mythology. It's called The Chaos of Stars. And I'm going to go ahead and read you the synopsis. Just look at that cover though first. I'm going to tell you, I do judge books by the cover only in the sense that it's a pretty book. Okay? I don't know if the book is actually a good read, but it's a beautiful cover, and sometimes, that gets me interested. It piques my interest right away. So let's read the first page of, the synopsis, I mean. Okay, Isidora's family is seriously screwed up. What? Okay, what? Of course, when you're the human daughter of Egyptian gods, that comes with the territory. Okay, I understand. You're related to Egyptian gods. So, it's probably a little weird, maybe not normal necessarily. Isidora's divine relatives can barely remember her name. After all, they're immortal, and she isn't. Isidora is sick of living a life where she's only worthy of a passing glance, and when she's offered the chance to move thousands of miles away, she jumps on it. But as much as Isidora tries to keep her new world and old world apart, she quickly realizes there's no such thing as a clean break when it comes to family. So she just knows there's no such thing as a clean break. She's trying to get away. It's not going to be clean. It's going to be messy. That's the opposite of clean. So there's a little bit of some foreshadowing there to give you a little sense of kind of the tone of the story. So let's read the first page of Chaos of Stars. Let's see if this piques your interest. It did me. Let's see. When I was a little girl, I still believed I was part of the world's secret magic. That's the first sentence. That pulls me in right away. Obviously, it's going to have something to do with magic, fantasy, okay, like so far, the world's secret magic. Okay, now that's what I am wondering about. What's so secretive about this? Okay. Mother wrapped her hair elegantly in white cloth. I begged and pleaded until she did mine as well. At the river, Mother gathered pebbles and sand, small plants, and sun-bleached bones. I splashed along the banks or rode on female hippos if Tauret, my aunt and the goddess of childbirth, was with us. Okay, so we know that she is with some divine characters. Tauret is her aunt and the goddess of childbirth. And we can already tell it's a very nature-y scene so far. So yeah, so far it's really getting me in. But my favorite place to be, even more than in the brilliant sun reflecting off the water of the Nile, was with my father. So that right there sets the scene up some more, even more specifically, that she is, next to the Nile. If you know anything about geography, if you've studied this in any of your classes, the Nile is in Egypt. So we know that definitely it does take place in Egypt. I'm going to quit there. I know you want to read more. I know you want to read more. But we have it at the library if you do. Call us if you'd like to put a hold on that. If not, like I said, try and find you a copy somewhere at a bookstore or Amazon. The next one, this is And I Darken, and this is a trilogy actually, so if you really liked the first one, I suggest reading the second two. I actually haven't read books 2 and 3, but I read book 1 and I loved it, so I think that I would really like the next two. So this is And I Darken. I'm going to go ahead and read you some of the synopsis of this one. No one expects a princess to be brutal. Okay, so far already got my attention there because it's not a typical princess story. It's not the, you know, your typical gowns and pretty things and stuff. So we got some brutality. Why? Let's keep reading. And Lada I really had a hard time pronouncing her last name. Lada Dragwila likes it that way. Ever since she and her gentle younger brother Radu were wrenched from her homeland of Wallachia and abandoned by their father to be raised in the Ottoman courts, Lada has known that being ruthless is the key to survival. She and Radu are doomed to act as pawns in a vicious game, an unseen sword hovering over their every move. For the lineage that makes them special also makes them targets. Lada despises the Ottomans and bides her time, planning her vengeance for the day when she can return to Wallachia and claim her birthright. Radu longs only for a place where he feels safe, and when they meet Mehmed, the defiant and lonely son of the Sultan, Radu feels that he's made a true friend, and Lada wonders if she's finally found someone worthy of her passion. Okay, so I'm going to stop reading the synopsis there. So already you can tell this is going to be kind of, you know, a historical fantasy fiction, if you will, because you have the Ottoman Empire, which was a, you know, it was a real empire historically. So if you are interested in history, you can do some research on that if you want. That actually might help you understand, especially some terminology in this book. That's what I like to do when I read books that have a historical setting like that, especially if it takes place in another country where there's different cultures from our own here. I like to do a little bit of research. It just really helps me to get a feel of the scene and to understand terminology and things like that. So let's go ahead and read a little bit of the first part of And I Darken. Let's get you pulled in, and we have a map. I love when there's a map, because like I said, this is a different place. This is a different country. It's the Ottoman Empire. There's Transylvania, which is a real place, of course. There's Wallachia. There's Hungary, which is real. Bulgaria, Albania. So this takes place in the real world, so to speak. Okay, chapter 1, and this says 1435, Sighisora. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Sighisora, Transylvania. We're going to go with that. And don't feel bad if you can't pronounce things. You can definitely look up the translation, or not the translation, the pronunciation. You could Google that. I didn't. It's been a long time since I've actually read this one, so just bear with me here. It's a good book, I promise. All right. Vlad Drakel's heavy brow descended like a storm when the doctor informed him that his wife had given birth to a girl. Okay, right away. Vlad Drakel? Excuse me? Did you just say Drakel? That's what went through my head too. Like Dracula? Let's keep reading. His other children, one from his first wife, now nearly full grown, and even a bastard child from his mistress born last year, had been boys. He had not thought he had not thought his seed weak enough to produce a girl. So, sorry, that's a little bit graphic for you. This is young adult. I warned you. This is teen book talk, okay? He pushed through the door into the close, heavy air of the tiny bedroom. It stank of blood and fear and filled him with disgust. Ugh, this is dark. This is gory so far. So far I'm interested, because let's see where this goes. Their home in the fortified hill city of Sighisora was a far city from what he deserved. It sat next to the main gate in the suffocating press of the square, beside an alley that reeked of human waste. What? This either disgusts you or interests you, well, or both, or really, really makes you not want to read this if you think it's gross and weird and dark. But, you know, if you're into this type of stuff, hey, it is a really good story. If you like historical things, go for it. You won't be disappointed. And the next book that I want to talk about is the Guinevere Deception. This is one that I haven't read yet, but it looks really interesting, especially if you're a fan of the King Arthur, the Arthurian legends. You might be into this one, and I'm planning on reading this one as well, so we can kind of read this together, sort of, if you will, if you want to grab a copy for your own. So here is the synopsis for you. There was nothing in the world as magical and terrifying as a girl. Okay, that right away that hooks you in right there, because it's like girl power, you know. From New York Times bestselling author Kiersten White comes a fantasy series reimagining the Arthurian legend, set in the magical world of Camelot, where deadly jousts, duplicitous knights, and forbidden romances are nothing compared to the greatest threat of all, the girl with the long black hair riding on horseback through the dark woods toward Arthur. Okay, so far I'm really liking that synopsis. Gives you some of the setting. You're in this Arthurian tale. It's a magical world. It's Camelot. I'm picturing knights. I'm picturing some dragons. I'm picturing some fairy people. By the way, there's a fairly new Netflix show called Cursed, which is also a take on Arthur, and it's got Merlin and all those characters. I highly recommend that TV show. So yeah, I'm picturing it kind of like that. You know, you've got this Arthurian setting, which is, you know, pulls me in right away. So let's read a little bit of the first page here of chapter 1. There was nothing in the world as magical and terrifying as a girl on the cusp of womanhood. Okay, so a little bit different from what was on the back. You know, it ended with magical and terrifying as a girl. Now here it says, as magical and as terrifying as a girl on the cusp of womanhood. That's really funny, okay? She's kind of a genius by doing that. That's really cool, because in the back you read that and you're like, huh, wow, girls can be so terrifying. And then it's like on the cusp of womanhood, and you know, you guys are at that age, you might understand this. You might understand this, because it's like, huh. Anyway, let's read some more. The particular girl had never before felt the power she held by existing in a space of men, but today, surrounded by them, it radiated from her. I am untouchable. They revolved around her as though she were the earth, and they the adorning but distant sun and moon and stars. It was a type of magic in and of itself. Okay, so far she's very important, obviously. She is feeling powerful because she is in this space which usually is for men, so I'm thinking she might be coming into some power here. That's really cool. I like that she's incorporating, you know, some things about women, you know, which is a timely issue in the world right now, with, you know, women's rights and equality and things like that. So yeah, and men, you guys are awesome too. Not to say that you guys aren't. I think that it's cool that, you know, that this female hero character has, you know, she's coming to light here right away. We're getting a sense of who she is right away, and I really like when authors kind of do that instead of leaving a lot to be predicted. Anyway, and then here is the next part. A veil obscured and dimmed the world around her. She sat back achingly straight in her saddle. She did not wriggle her toes in the boots they were so unaccustomed to. She pretended she was a painting. Okay, so she is on a saddle. We know that she's riding a horse. She's wearing boots, so we know that she is geared up for something. And we know that in that time period, especially in the Arthurian legends in this kind of universe, when we think of people on horseback wearing boots and geared up for something, we think of knights, right? We think of the men in power who usually are the ones who are able to dress this way and be on a horse and all of that. So, you know, we already know that for some reason this female is coming into some kind of power. She's powerful. We know that right away. And I'm not going to read any more. I know you want to read more. I keep saying that. I know you want to read more, and we have this book here to check out if you'd like it. So, the one that I'm reading, we talked a little bit about this. This is book 1 of the Slayer Chronicles by Kiersten White, and like I said, this is from the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So if you guys remember Buffy, you know, we already know that Buffy was a pretty powerful chick when it came to slaying vampires and things. And, you know, if you're not familiar with her, I would do a little bit of research on Buffy, maybe watch the old shows and all of that, to get you a little bit familiar with the world that this takes place in. And I enunciate world, or the universe in which this takes place, because Buffy is an actual person in their story. They remember Buffy as being somebody who, you know, she was one of the top slayers, and in the beginning of the story starts out, Buffy somehow broke magic. Magic is messed up in the world starting out. So that's kind of an interesting conflict there starting out right away. So let's read the synopsis here. Nina and her twin sister Artemis are far from normal. So right away you know that Buffy is not the main character. This isn't about Buffy. This is in the same universe where we have different characters, but they know who Buffy is. She's kind of a legend to them in this book. So they're far from normal. It's hard to be when you grow up at the Watchers Academy, which is a bit different from your average boarding school. Here, teens are trained as guides for slayers, girls gifted with supernatural strength to fight the forces of darkness. But while Nina's mother is a prominent member of the Watchers Council, Nina has never embraced the violent Watcher lifestyle. Instead, she follows her instincts to heal, carving out a place for herself as the school medic, until the day Nina's life changes forever. Thanks to Buffy, the famous and infamous Slayer that Nina's father died protecting, Nina's not only the newest chosen one, she's the last Slayer ever. Period. As Nina hones her skills with her Watchers in training, Leo, there's plenty to keep her occupied. With her Watcher in training, Leo, there's plenty to keep her occupied. A monster fighting ring, a demon who eats happiness, a shadowy figure that keeps popping up in Nina's dreams. But it's not until bodies start turning up that Nina's new powers will truly be tested, because someone she loves might be next. One thing is clear, being chosen is easy, making choices is hard. So that is a really cool synopsis right away. It pulls you into, you know, the tone of this story. It's kind of melancholy. It's kind of, there's a little bit of anxiety because these two girls, especially Nina, they have this calling that they know that they have, you know, and Nina especially, she knows that she has this calling to be this Slayer, the last Slayer ever, and she's got to figure out how to deal with this. So it's kind of a maturing story. It's kind of a coming of age story, finding yourself, discovering your inner power, and things like that. So if you like those themes in your books that you read, I highly recommend this. I just started this book, so I'm only a few chapters in, but so far it's really pulling me in. The characters are likable. Nina's pretty. I really like Nina. She's cool. She's discovering some things about herself right now where I'm at that are like, whoa. She's like, how did I do that? What did I just do? Who am I? Kind of thing. So, you know, I really like those stories myself. So, and we're gonna go ahead and read the first little bit here of this one. See if it pulls you in. See if it piques your interest. And this is actually a epilogue. Let's go ahead and read this epilogue, and then we'll see if this pulls you in. They of all people should have known better than to be in a cemetery as the sun set and night claimed the world. The hunter watched the mother, straight as a lightning rod jammed into the earth, channeling her grief into the grave where her heart had been buried. On either side of her stood a little girl in pink cowboy boots. They were both skinny and pale, their red curls now leached of color in the darkness. Darkness was the great equalizer. Everyone was the same in the dark, colorless, featureless, powerless. The hunter would keep them that way. It was her job, after all. She turned to the vampire beside her. They were both invisible in the black recess of a mausoleum. The woman lives. The children are yours. Technically, only one of the girls needed to die, but it was better to avoid any prophetic loopholes. The vampire strolled out toward the grieving family. He didn't hide or prowl. He didn't need to. One of the girls tugged frantically on her mother's hand. "Mama! Mama!" The woman turned wearily, without enough time to be surprised before the vampire threw her. She flew back, hitting her husband's granite headstone and falling unconscious to the soft ground over it. Merrick Jameson Smythe, husband, father, watcher, loomed above her in classically carved letters. The hunter wished she could take a photo. It was perfect staging. "Hello, girls." The vampire's glee was audible. The hunter checked her watch. She should have picked a hellhound, or perhaps the Order of Takara. But they were outside her price range and frankly overkill. 2 children needed a very minimal amount of kill, and she liked the symmetry of using a vampire. He held out his arms, as though inviting the children in for an embrace. "You can run if you'd like. I don't mind chasing. Works up an appetite." The 2 girls, who the hunter had expected to be screaming by now, looked at each other solemnly. Perhaps standing on the grave of their father, who was dead because of a vampire, they felt the truth. This was always their fate. One of the girls nodded. The other threw herself at the vampire's legs with such startling speed and fury that the vampire fell backward, tangled up. Before he could kick the girl off, the other one jumped on his chest. And then the vampire was gone. Both girls stood, brushing dust from their neat black dresses. The second little girl tucked the stake back into her flowery cowboy boot. They hurried over to their mother and patted her cheeks until she stirred. At least their mother had the sense to be panicked. The hunter sighed, annoyed, as the mother pulled the girls to herself. Now they were all watching the night, alert. The hunter had hoped to avoid the confrontation of revealing himself, but it had to be done. She pulled out her crossbow. The beeper chimed. She looked down at it out of habit, and when she stood back up, the family was gone. She swore. She should never have used a vampire. That was what she got for trying a bit of poetic tragedy. She had orders to keep their mother alive if possible, and she'd wanted their mother to live alone, having lost everything to the same pathetic half-breed of monster. Punishment for thinking she could hide from prophecy. Punishment for risking the entire world for her own selfish desires. Well, the hunter would find them again. She flipped up her hood and strode to the nearest gas station. A payphone waited in an anemic pool of light. She picked it up and dialed the number on her beeper. "Is it done?" "No," the hunter replied. "I'm disappointed in you." "So ground me." She hung up, scowling, and then went inside the gas station. She had failed to avert the apocalypse for now. She needed candy. Okay, that right there, that pulled me in. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I read that synopsis, it really brought me in. So we have the twins. We know right away we have a pair of twins who are little girls who just jumped the vampire who was about to jump them. So it's like, what happened there? Who are these girls? And we know that the story is about a pair of twin girls who are supposedly watchers who help vampire slayers. So the wheels already start turning in your head. It's like, okay, are those the twin girls from the story? Are they different twin girls? Who's this girl who's narrating? Why does she has to get candy? So we know she's young. She said, okay, then ground me. So the people that are above her, who she's reporting to, are kind of her parents, sort of. So already, after you read that epilogue, you're thinking, what in the world? What in the world? Where is this story going? So anyway, I hope that these stories have really piqued your interest. I hope that, after reading a little bit of the stories, it made you want to read more. Like I said, we have these books here at the library available to check out. If you want to call us, we can put them on hold for you. If you'd like to come and check them out and read them for yourself, and then let us know what you thought. If you find these books on your own, if you don't come to the library, and you read them, send us a message on Facebook if you want, and just let us know, say, hey, I read these books that Molly had mentioned on Teen Book Talk, and I just wanted to let you know what I thought about them. Do that, please. Send us a message. That would be awesome. I love to hear feedback from you guys if you've read these books or not. So just send us some feedback. So not next week, because I'm doing Teen Book Talk every other week. That just helps me to get, you know, everything I want to talk about planned, and we have other videos we do throughout the week. So this will kind of be a bi-weekly thing that we're going to do. I think I'm going to start incorporating some crafts, because I do have some teen crafts that we put together here at the library, and adults can do it too, but they're really fun. So I think what I'll do next Teen Book Talk that we have, I'm going to show you guys a craft that I'm getting ready to put together, because we're going to have some take and make kits here where you can come and pick up the materials. But you know, like I said earlier, if you're not local, if you're just viewing this from somewhere farther away, I'll have a list of the materials that you do need, that you can get. I make my crafts really simple, and where the materials are affordable for you guys too. I don't ever use really complicated materials. Normally they're pretty easy to make, and I like to provide the materials here at the library for those. So anyway, stay tuned for the next Teen Book Talk, Tuesday after next, and we'll have fun. We'll talk about some more books. We'll do another type of reading. You know, I might read a little bit of a novel, might, you know, maybe read a poem or something like that. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of winging it with these. I think it's a little bit more fun to be open with it and just kind of, you know, freestyle and just talk. This is Teen Book Talk. So if I ramble on about something, please don't judge me, because I like to talk, and this is what this is. We can't have our talks here at the library, so if I can talk to you guys as if we would when we're all together, you know, if that helps feel like we're actually here together having a book discussion, that's totally cool. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I will see you guys on the next Teen Book Talk.